Big countdown to Yisrael Goldstein's wedding. Where is it going to be? Do we even know? Oops. Oh, so you're not going upstate. You're using the same hall. Okay, beautiful. Good morning, Rabbi Sai. I want to read to you a quick email before the sponsors. This email comes from Mayor Planka. Hi. Make a recommendation to the rebellion that he should put his mother's name as a permanent thing on the sponsorship board, so when he reads the sponsorships, he'll remember daily to say Eli Nishmas his mother. Thank you for everything. Have a great day. Mayor Planka. Voila, Rabbi Sai. Introducing the new and improved board. Nobody has to remind me anything. One little idea, look, that's what we need. Here we go. Eli Nishmas Imi Murasi, Rus Bas Mordechai. Rabbi Sai, this is in honor of Shlomi Klein. It's like a surprise, I guess. Shlomi Klein's birthday. Happy birthday, Admei Esrim Shana, with health, wealth, and nachas, with love from your siblings. Rabbi Sai, you know what this is? This is Shlomi Klein from Crown Heights. Crown Heights. What are his siblings getting for a birthday? A happy birthday on the Daf Yomi Shiur. So last night I was schmoozing with my good friend Louis Colum. He's he runs in the modern Orthodox groups. And I always tell him, I tell him that he's more Haredi than any Haredi I know. He davens Vasikin every morning. You cannot go into his office without hearing a Dvar Torah at least 30, 40 minutes. Last night I called him just to say hello, and it took 45 minutes until I said hello to him. He gave me a whole Dvar Torah that he made up for. It had to do with the golden dove and Eli. Something with Eliyah. I didn't even hear half the things he was saying because I had to prepare the shiur. But he listens to the shiur. And I was telling him, I'm still on a high from the siyum. And I found myself, the only thing I was basically telling him is, you're not going to believe this. This guy that learned in Panovich, I named my kid after Rav Shach. And I was excited about the siyum at the oil of the Rebbe. That's the only thing I was telling you about. You should know there's a minyan there, and there's a whole, they catered a meal there. And then I get this, Shlomi Klein. Who was the guy in charge of that whole thing? Shlomi Klein. Anyways, it comes off right off the dot, the last words we learned yesterday. Mamish, the last words. Yoshua, Oiv Yisrael Haya. Halavai. Anybody that knows me, anybody could do tshuva, anybody could slowly. It takes time. It takes time to get used to it. But Be'ezer Hashem, we're on a path. Oh. You guys remember this guy? Sponsored by Shiur Greenfield from Green Star Electrical Contracting. No, it doesn't say that. Shiur Greenfield from Borough Park. How you doing, Reb Shia? How are you? I see you on there somewhere. Leila Nishmas Sarah Bas Yisrael Zechron Levracha. His grandmother. The Shoma should have an aliyah. Shlomi Klein should give all of us brachas. So, real quickly, we have a couple of emails that have to do with yesterday's shiur. And then we'll jump into it. One of them is from Lauren Spiegelman. He says he learned in Muncie, and he had to go through all those shortcuts. And his shortcut to yeshiva is upper driveway of the house, through the woods for 30 seconds, down the driveway of the house, next street. The second driveway is the house of M.W., a 12th grader in Yeshiva's high school. One Friday, there's a big snowstorm. And his driveway was piled so high, he dug a path in the snow so people would be able to walk through on Shabbos. But just to be funny, this is right up my alley. I love it. He didn't dig a straight path from the edge of the woods down his driveway. He dug a snake path, like at the airport. So he had to cross his doubled width driveway back and forth and only gain a few inches down the driveway each time he crossed. He had a good laugh Shabbos morning watching everyone walk through like rats in a maze. And if you had a good sense of humor, you laughed too. By the way, with credit to Shmuel Elowat, rise over run is how you calculate it, but it might be easier to use the word slope or incline or shipua. Warm regards from Anonymous. Just kidding. Lauren Spiegelman. Shkoyach. Lauren! Way to go. You see, look, the sense of humor is rubbing off. The first time I said a joke, he came over and he said, it's not nice to say jokes like that. The guy might be insulted. Lad, he's learning. This is look at this. I can't read this, but I'm just going to take one Maisa that I missed. He doesn't say so, but maybe he's alluding to that. A beautiful Maisa. We're talking about business in the city. So he's the famous Maisa we have to say over. A father was about to marry off his daughter, And he knew that the chassan didn't have any money for a ring, so the father gathered up all his savings, $1,000 to buy a ring for the chassan. And on the way to buy the ring, he lost his wallet. And he was very depressed. So the following day, there was a knock on the door. A distinguished Jew is standing there. I'm erasing the word chassid here. A distinguished Jew, we're not racist there. A distinguished Jew is standing in there and offers up his wallet that he just found. He can't believe he's doing a shavas aveda. All the money's inside. He offers a reward, nothing, zero. He doesn't want to. It's hashavas aveda. He says to him, "I'm doing it for the mitzvah." That afternoon, the father goes to this jewelry store. He asks around, "Where's the best jeweler?" And they say, "This this Jew, he's the top jeweler." So he goes and he buys a ring from him, and then he takes the ring to have it appraised. And the appraiser looks at it and he says, "I hope you didn't pay more than $4 for this ring." And then he runs back to the guy. He says, "What did you do? You're such a tzaddik. You gave me back my wallet." He says, "Listen, yesterday was a mitzvah. Today is business." Shine. That was the famous Maisa. So Shkoyach regards Jack Ehrenhaus. Shkoyach Reb Jack. So we're starting a brand new Mishnah, otherwise known as a brand new Masechta. Daf Beis Amud Beis. Today's Daf Gimel. Says the Mishnah, Echad bar harabim ube'er harabim. Ube'er, by the way, Nachamal, we're going through sugis that we learned already. We mentioned all this stuff. We'll maybe go into a little deeper, but we're very familiar with all of this. Echad bar harabim ube'er harabim ube'er hayachid oisim lem pasim. In other words, there's one, Shalom Aleichem. How did that happen to my screen? I don't know. But all I see is Avi Kamiansky on my screen. Seriously. Okay, I'm back. So, so there are two things going on. There's a bar and there's a be'er. A be'er is a well that has natural flowing water. It doesn't dry out. A bar has water that could dry out. The issue is with a bar that we're concerned by a yachid that you might not realize that it dried out, and now you don't have any permission to use the pasibirais. We're talking about the L-shaped bracket still. Those are only if there's water to draw the water. No water, no right to use it. Says Rabbi Kiva. Therefore, you could do pasibirais in a public bar, and certainly in a public be'er, and even in a public bar, a bar that doesn't have natural water, just accumulated there from the rain. If there's a rabbin, people remind each other, that's fine. So 3 out of 4, Rebbe Kiva says is great. The only one he says you cannot use is a bar that doesn't have natural water. 4, Hold on, Rabbi Isa on YouTube. There's an issue with Zoom for a second. Hold on. Let me see what's going on with YouTube for a second. It's good. One second. Let me see what we can do here. Sorry, everybody. Oh. Okay, I am back.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I thought I was back. I can't unmute myself. Oh.
As simple as Eli makes it seem, it's hours of work.
Okay, thanks Gary for muting me. I appreciate it. Rabbi say I'm back. For some reason, I think somebody was playing with my computer. Somebody went on and disconnected me. So, Ishkoyach. I'm not going to say any names here. All right, so where were we? I'm waiting for that day. You know what? We had from Masechtas Shabbos Daf Yud Aleph, Shabbos straight. We barely had any issues with disconnecting and that sort of thing. I'm waiting for that day that the internet goes down, and then we're going to have an issue. All right. Zok.
The last place you left off was about like this. You're right at this, the last point.
What is that? What does that mean? Yeah, so I was saying the email like this. So the guy, he went to buy a diamond, and what happened? Okay, fine. Let's go back to the sugya. So there's a bar and a be'er, and there's a rabbim and a yachid. Rebbe Akiva says 3 out of the 4 you could use pasibirois. So you could do pasibirois for a well. Of course, you could do a well. A well has flowing water. The issue is a bar. So he makes a distinction. A bar that accumulates water, if it's for the rabbin, everybody will remind each other. If somebody notices that there's no water in there, they'll tell everybody else, not a problem. But the individual, he says, if it's a pit that just accumulates water, an individual cannot use pasibirois. Next. So what do? No pasibirois anymore. You have to put a proper fence. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Omer. So we have to remember this Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava says halacha number 1, and if you look at the next Mishnah, take a peek, just so we understand a little better. You look at Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the next Mishnah, it says Va'oid Omer Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. So it's a continuation on this Mishnah right here, and the Gemara wants to know why it uses the word Va'oid. So I'm just giving you the heads up. Says Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Omer, Ein Oisem Pasim Elul Bera Rabin Bilvad. So he's very machmir. He says that the pasibirois only works in one case, and that is for a well for the tzibur. You have to have a rabbin. So he's 1 out of 4, not 3 out of 4 like Rabbi Akiva. And for the rest, you make some sort of belt, maybe out of ropes, maybe Rashi says ropes, so you make it out of ropes. In other words, you need a proper wall. Says the Gemara Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Omer Rav Yosef, Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel. Halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. The halacha is that pasibirois only works for the public, and only in a well. Omer Rav Yosef, Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel. Lahudru pasibirois ela lebe'er mayim chayim bilvad. Only for natural flowing water. Isn't that one of the same? If the Gemara just said Allah was like Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, so I would think that what Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava's point was, he wasn't arguing on the well versus a pit, he was arguing on Rabbi Akiva, the rabbin versus the yachid. Rabbi Akiva allows a well for the individual, he says no, it's only for the rabbin. Even in a pit, even if it's not a well, as long as it's the rabbin. So it teaches you no, it has nothing to do with the rabbin, it has to do with a well. Because Rabbi Akiva says that even an individual could use pasibirois. No, you need natural flowing water. If it just said natural flowing water, I would think that the point is the water. Where, does it have a water source? It doesn't have a water source. So it has a water source. Then even a yachid can use it. What's the point? Why not? Why shouldn't the yachid be able to use it? What's your concern? It's going to dry out. It's never going to dry out. It has a water source. It's 2 things. Number 1, it has to be natural flowing water. It has to have a water source. Number 2, it could only be for the public. It can't be for an individual. End of the story. Says the next Mishnah. Vaydomar Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Hagino v'akavrav sheheim shivim ama v'shirayim al shivim ama v'shirayim. If you have a garden or a karfaf, what is a karfaf? So we had the karfaf yesterday. It's a scary word, but not really. A karfaf is an enclosed area that's not really used for residential use, but you could make it slightly residential. So, we're going to discuss today a lot this, where do we come up with the 70 amma? What's 70 amma? So, the real quick math is that the Beis HaMikdash the chutzner was 50 by 100. 50 times 100 is 5,000 square amos. If you take 5,000 square amos and try to make it, that's a rectangle, 50 by 100. You want to make it square. So if you do really quick math, if it's 70 by 70, so 70 times 70 equals 4,900. So we're very, very close to the 5,000 square amos. So you add a little bit to it, called 2/3 of an amma. 2/3 of an amma is 4 tefachim, because an amma is 6 tefachim. 2/3, 70 and 4 tefachim times 70 and 4 tefachim, you almost get there. It's almost 5,000. Okay. But the Gemara is going to discuss it in detail. Now, if it's Hamukavis Gadar Gavoyas or Tfachim, this karfaf, this enclosed area, has a wall around it that's 10 tefachim high, which is a typical, that's a Rosh Hashanah wall. Metal limitoicha, you're allowed to carry within it. Ubevad sheyebo shemeira or beis dira. If you look closely, I put a little arrow here where you can see there's a little. Oh no, that's what happened before. Oh, he did it. Okay, fine. Yeah. So there's a little deer. There's a little. That's a bias that you're looking at. There's a guardhouse which is a little different, a little less of a house, but the point is the same. In other words, now it became residential. Oh, you're right. For those on YouTube, you're saying? Let me just make sure that YouTube is still on because Noam called me. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. We got to get back into the base measure of Boisai. It's going to be a different world. $2,000 camera versus my lens for my computer camera. Different world. All right. So now that a guy is sleeping in there, he's watching the schaira, so it's residential. Oi, there's another way. Shtei smucha le'ir. If this karfaf is close to the city, karfaf meaning this guy right over here is within, it says in the picture 70 amas, less than 70 amas. Some people say 2,000 amas. But the point is that it's very usable. He constantly goes from the city to his storage, back, forth. So Memela, thanks Menachem. On Zoom, there was an arrow going like this. He's showing you how he goes. Okay, great. So then it becomes more of a residential use. And Memela, you could carry in it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, afilu einba ela bar v'shiach umar. Now this Rabbi Yehuda is different than the Rabbi Yehuda that the Mishnah started out with. This is the famous Rabbi Yehuda of all Mishnayos. The first one was Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, afilu einba ela bar v'shiach umara mitaltalim b'soicha. You don't need a guardhouse. All you need is a ma'ara and a shiach. I just stole this from another picture. I didn't have patience to print two pictures. So this long bar over here is a shiach. All right, and you have a little bit of a ma'ara. Show them where ma'ara is because it's hard to see. It's a little cave going on here. You have that. It makes it more residential. Rebbe Kiva Omer afilu einbo achas mikolayla. You don't need a bar. You don't need a shiach. You don't need ma'ara. Mitadam esoicha. Ubevad sheyeh bo shivim amo v'shirayim al shivim amo v'shirayim. Says Rabbi Akiva, this is what we're going to discuss in the Gemara. He says you need maximum 70 by 70, and Rabbi Akiva holds it has to be square. Cannot be rectangle. Square 70 and a little bit, and 70 and a bit. Which is basically, if you think about it, we already said this shita in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says in the beginning, Shivim Amo v'shirayim al Shivim Amo v'shirayim. Ask the Gemara, what's the difference between the two of them? And the Gemara is going to say, literally inches. Very negligible. That's the whole difference. The difference is between exactly 5,000 Amma and a few Amma less than 5,000. If it starts coming at a square, even afilu Amma achas, it has to be perfectly square. The Gemara is going to say, not mamish like we're reading, Rabbi Yossi Omer, afilu arka pishnayim berachba. Rabbi Yossi says it can be a perfect rectangle. How do I know? Where does he get this idea from? From the chutzner, which was 50 by 100. I mean, we're learning this whole dimension from the chutzner, and the chutzner was a rectangle. So he says, of course it could be 50 by 100 means 100 is twice the width of 50. So I could go up to twice the width, not more. Metaltal b'soicha. Omer Rebbe Eloi, Shomati mir Rebbe Elazar. Mir Rebbe Eliezer, you have to be garish here. Shomati mir Rebbe Eliezer, va'afilu hi kebeis kur. If this karfaf, this guy right over here, no water source, no mara, it's not hukaf ladira, it's not for residential use. It could go up to, it could be a kur. What's a kur? 30 saw. 15 times the amount that we're talking about. We're talking about, he says, I heard directly from Rebbe Eliezer that it's a base kur. V'chein shomati mimenu, I heard from him another halacha. Anshe chotze sheshachach echad mehem v'lo irev beisoi v'lo irev beisoi oso melach l'sloi tziloi. So, we discussed about an Eruv Chatzeres, right? We just said Shlomo HaMelech made an Eruv Chatzeres, and there was a bas kol that was so happy with him, in Chacham B'ni, Chacham Libecha, whatever the lashon over there is. So, you have two neighbors, you have 5 neighbors, they live in a mavoi, they live in a chatzer, they have a chatzer, they share Chatzeres, you can go from one chatzer to the other. You have to make an Eruv if you want to go from one person to the next. So what do? In our days, for instance, we take, let's say, a challah, egg, we make a suda, we say everybody is a partner. That's because everybody's part of the challah. I'm a zakah, the other person. In those days, everybody would come, drop off their little bulkala, their little roll. Each person puts a roll into the pile. One guy forgot to put the roll in the pile. Everybody put besides this guy Reuven. So Rashi says, what he could do is only one thing. He cannot make an Eruv on Shabbos, too late. But he could be mevatel his rishus on Shabbos. He could say, it's not mine. I'm mafkir my house. You guys could come into me. I can't go to you. I'm mevatel rishus. So therefore, beisoi also melahachlis u'lahoitziloi. He can't do anything. Avalahem mutar. They could, since he was mevatel his house to them, they could go into his house. V'chein shamati mimenu, and also a third halacha I heard from Rebbe Eliezer, sheyotzin bar kabolin. Kabolin is some sort of vine that grows on a palm tree. It's very bitter and it's marar. He says, I can use it for marar. He says, bepesach. V'chizarti al kol tamidov, and I searched for somebody that could back me up and say, yeah.
Is that on Shabbos that he could be mevatel his bias?
Yeah, on Shabbos itself, he's mevatel his rishos.
Even though going into Shabbos they weren't allowed to go in there.
Yeah. Even though right now on Shabbos he cannot make an Eruv, he can't help himself, but he could help his friends by being mevatel rishos. That he could do on Shabbos. Let's see, if Rashi says so mefurish. We're going to learn about it. Don't worry about it. All right. Oh, shkoyach. You could always count on him. Shkoyach or Menachem Mate. Okay. Right. So Rashi, now that I peek in Rashi also says, because without him being mevatel, it ruins it for everybody. If you have one rishus going to another rishus, one rishus is usher, so that open rishus ushers all the other rishus. When you have rishus open to each other and one of them is a no good rishus, it makes all the other rishus no good as well. So that's why he's mevatel his rishus, and they're okay. Fine. V'chizarti al kol talmidov, and I looked for anybody that could help me out here and say, yes, we heard this from Rebbe Eliezer. Ubikashti li chover, I looked for somebody, v'loi matzasi, I didn't find a friend. Boisai, I don't know if everybody's had a time like that you need somebody to back you up. Didn't you see that? I just saw it fly through. You didn't see that alien? Sugar. Yeah, one time I was with Rabbi Friedman. Judah's here. Rabbi Yehuda, I'm sorry, not Judah. Rabbi Yehuda, his son goes to Rabbi Yaakov Friedman's yeshiva in Beitar. Famous yeshiva. Unbelievable yeshiva. So he was in Chicago, and I was schmoozing with him in a shul in Lincolnwood, and he said about somebody that they're cute, like their personality is cute. And I took offense to it. Like I don't know, like I shouldn't have said it. I said, cute. A mouse is also cute. Mice is shahaya, but like many of my mices, the moment, I'm not kidding, the moment I said that a mouse is also cute, a rat ran between us and got confused and ran on my shoe and ran out of the door. And I'm like, look, Rosh Hashiva, look, I just said mouse and a mouse hit me. He's like, there's no mouse. It's in your head. I'm like, what? What do you mean it's in my head? I just saw a rat. I was like, I wanted to go to a lab and have them, take the footprints off my shoe to prove it. I was going crazy, and I went. There's a guy, Simcha Edelman, that was working in the shul there. I said, I saw a rat. He goes, yeah, we have a rat problem in the shul now. I was like, okay, he gave me a little bit. He's the same Simcha Edelman, by the way, that everybody in Chicago said all my mices are fake. So Reb Shmuel Brazil came to Chicago. I told you this, the one that I fell into a cesspool, and he went over to Reb Shmuel Brazil. He says, Rosh Hashiva, Eli says that in the Shar Yashiv bungalow colony, he fell into a cesspool. He says, I was there. I helped pull him out. So he ran around the whole state. He says, all of Eli's mices are real. If this one is true, then they're all. Kitzer. Lo mishaneh. Ubikashli chaver is my very, it bothers me. He didn't believe me that a mouse touched my shoe. He says, basically saying, I'm a meshugana. I dream things. I saw bahakits. I was chaylim bahakits. All right. From the Rashiv himself. Yeah. Yeah, the mouse was in my head. I'm telling you, I'm sticking to it. He says, no, I believe that you saw it. Just it didn't happen. All right, I hope his Hasidim are not watching because they hold that he has Ruach HaKodesh and the whole thing. So according to the Rashiva, this guy is nuts. Fine. Says the Gemara, My Tono Diktani Va'oid. The first word in this Mishnah, Va'oid Omar Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. What kind of business is this Lashon? Have you ever seen that Lashon, Va'oid? And in addition, if a Tana says Allah, he says Allah, and then he says another Allah, he keeps on going. What's the Va'oid? Well, he just said in the Mishnah before that you cannot use pasibirois only 1 out of 4 cases. Only for the rabbim, and it's a be'er, it has to have streaming water from the ground, groundwater, chadel l'chumra, viktani achriti, and therefore, he's adding, and he's talking about a karfaf, and a karfaf is also only a certain shear. Says the Gemara, Mishum ha'chiktani v'oid, v'ha Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so continue in our Mishnah. It says Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi, Rabbi Yehuda afilu ein ba ela bar v'shiach mar metalim b'soicha. The Torah lechadel l'chumra v'ktani achriti. So first he says the halacha that pasi birois. We had spoke a lot about it. Pasi birois. How big? The first Mishnah in our parak. How large could a pasi birois be? So as Rabbi Yehuda said, with the bar. Only the bar with the pass, but tusa. And now over here he says another halach in our Mishnah. Afilu ein bar shiva mara, so a karfaf could get away without a house, without a hut, just a cave. How come it doesn't say va'oid Rabbi Yehuda omer afilu ein bar shiva mara? Says the Gemara, perhaps Hasam Afsaku Rabbanon. Over here, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava is back to back with himself. So it's a void. It goes well. They're connected. They're tied. Yes, they're very different halachas. One is talking about a karfaf. One is talking about a pase birois. But they're next to each other. But over here, our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, and the first Mishnah. There's a lot going on. Says the Gemara, and when there's a rabbanon in between, you don't say va'id. Like tani va'id, v'Rabbi Eliezer the sukkah daf sekur rabbanon v'tani va'id. So the Gemara is very bothered about this word va'id. When do you say va'id? When don't you say the word va'id? Over here we have a case. Yeah.
I'm sorry. The second din of Rabbi Yehuda is not. It's about needing to be misalik it like stadim.
Yeah. You're right. What did I say? I just said the first one. Yeah, you're right. Over here, Sosayim, and Misali l'tzdadim. You're right. That when the rabbim go through the pasim birais, Rabbi Yehuda holds that they could be mevatel the pasim. You have to put them to the side.
Right.
Says the Gemara.
Of this Mishnah.
Yeah, you're right. It's like my mother's name. Even though it's written in my Gemara, I didn't see it. You're right. V'ha Rebbe Eliezer de Sukkah. I need it on top in big letters. So Rebbe Eliezer in Sukkah says that you have to eat 14 meals in the Sukkah, 2 every day. Rabbanan say there's no limit. And then he says another halach. He says, what if you missed one of the meals? You eat that meal you missed one of the meals on the first day of Yontif, you eat that meal on the last day of Yontif. Shmini Atzeres. But there's a Rabbanan in between that say you don't need to eat 14 meals. It's not 14. Viktani Vaid, nevertheless it says the word Vaid. Says the Gemara, Hasam ben Milsei Hudav Sekua. So, it's not, the Gemara says, listen, it's not about being the same type of halacha. It's about no hefsek. If they're back to back. So when it's the same halacha, great. When it's not the same halacha, if it's the same thing, there's no hefsek in between them, like by us, then we do a va'id. And in sukkah, since it's the same halacha, it says va'id. But if you don't have those two things, then there's no va'id. Says the Gemara, Rebbe Akiva Omer, afilu ein bo elo, afilu ein bo echad mikol elu mitalim b'sachar. Rebbe Akiva says, even if it doesn't have a bar, sheach ma'ara, you could still use the karfaf. Now, returning to Daf Chav Gimel Amud Beis, sponsored by Asher, Lili Nishmas' mother, Roiza Bas Ben Yomen, and of course, Rabbi, you have a choice. You could either make it a bad day or a good day. You should choose to make it a good day. And Lili Nishmas, Dr. Listhaus' father, Mordechai Yosef ben Aaron Listhaus. The Chav Gimel Amud Beis, as the Gemara, Rebbe Kiva, Hainu Tanakama, they both say the same exact thing, that the karfaf could only be 70 plus amma by 70 plus amma, 70 and 2/3 and 70 and 2/3. Says the Gemara, Ikibinayu davar muat. Now, the difference is a very small amount. So if you do a very simple calculation, take out your calculator, you'll see. If we're talking about 70 and 2/3. 2/3 is 4 ammas out of the 6. So how do you do 2/3? I don't know. I never went to school. You do 70.6666 times 70.6666. You'll come out with 4,994, approximately, somewhere around there. So we're missing 6 amos out of the 5,000. We're supposed to get to 5,000 amos. 50 times 100 is 5,000 amos. That's the size of the Chatzar Hamigdash. But if you do 70 and 2/3 times 70 and 2/3, you're missing 6 amos. The Gemara is going to go even into more detail. According to Rashi, is going to bring it even more. The Sanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Davar Muad Yesh, and Rabbi Kiva is of the opinion that your chatzar, your karfaf, could only be 4,994 square amas. You don't go up to 5,000. That's already too much. It's already splitting hairs, and it's too hard to get to. So you just do 70 and 2/3 by 70 and 2/3. You lose those 6 amas. Yes. And according to the Tanakama, you don't. You have 5,000 amos exactly. Go a little bit more. The sign Rabbi Yehuda Omer davar mud yesh al shivim amma v'shirayim v'lei nasnu chachamim boy shir. Okay, so a lot of pictures. Let me show you how they do math in Panovich. This is Gemara math. So on the right side, you see there's a yellow box. That's the 50 amma that we're not talking about. We have a 50 by 100 area. And we're trying to enlarge the 50 yellow box, the box that's 50, we want to enlarge it and take the box on the left and add it to the box on the right. And it's going to come out to 70 and 2/3. How do we get there? How do you do this very interesting math? You take the box on the left and you cut it up into 5 strips. Each strip, because it's 50 amos wide, so each strip is going to be 10 amos wide by 50 amos long. So you have 4 strips that are in red, and then you have a funny strip that's in green and blue. Why? So first of all, the strip that's in green, you're going to take 4 boxes, 10 by 10. And the box that's in blue, we're going to cut into 30 strips. Yes, 30 strips that are 2 tfachim by 10 tfachim. Okay, now we're going to go to the next picture. Menachem, next picture. My internet connection.
You froze.
Oh, you froze. You gotta go back.
Okay, you got to go back.
How many pieces of lettuce do we have to use for tomorrow?
We're worried about Rosh Hashanah now. How many tkiyas do you have to hear if you're outside in the 110 degree weather? Fine. So we're trying again. Nachamal, I don't know where we finished off here, but again, we're trying to make this box, it's 50 on 50. We want to make it, take this box and add it to this box, and make it 70 and 2/3 by 70 and 2/3. How do you do it? You take this box and you cut into 5 strips of 10 by 50. We'll have 4 red strips we're going to use to put around the yellow box. And then we're going to be missing the corners. And I'll show you the next picture. So what do? We take the 5th strip and you cut it into 4 strips of 10 by 10. And the final square that's 10 by 10, we're going to cut into 30. Yes, you heard me right. 30 little strips. Each one is 2 tfachim wide. Why? Because 10 amos times 6 tfachim equals how much? 60 tfachim. So you take those 60 tfachim and cut them into 30 strips. You're going to have 2 tfachim each, right? 30 times 2 is 60. So you're going to have 30 strips that are 2 tfachim wide. And that's what we're going to be discussing now. Now we're going to go to the next picture. Hopefully we're stable on the connection. Wow, we have to see what's going on here. I spoke too soon. Oh, Rabbi Sai, I get a big mazel tov. I forgot. I get a big mazel tov. It's day 300 today. 300 consecutive days. I forgot. You know what? Now we'll see if David Agal, who sent me my mazel tov, if he actually watches through the shiur. We'll see. We're going to get a little bit of a notice, a little bit of a remez that he's here and he's watching. So David Agal sent me the Iron Man thing, 300 Yishkef. That also means that I have not been to Chicago and to overlook my business in 10 months. I don't know math, but 300 divided by 30 is 10. We're actually going to be speaking about 300. Very interesting. It's day 241 of the new cycle. It's amazing. Everybody, seriously. 241 days that the oil is here, day after day after day. Day straight? All right. So what happens is like this. Here's the yellow box. Here are the 4 red strips that you add. If I add 10 amas on this side, 10 amas on this side, I get 70 amas. 70 by 70. The problem is that by putting a strip that's 50 by 50, I'm missing the corner. Not a problem. Remember, we had 1 extra strip. We cut it into small little 4 green boxes. Great. So what do we have now? Now we have 70 by 70. But we also have the blue strip that is 2 tfachim wide. How long is that strip? 300 amas. Oh, what a coincidence. My 300th day, and we have 300 amas. Gewaldig. But let's do the math, Rabbi Sai. If each side is 70 amas, 70 times 4 is how much? 280. 280 amas. We are left over, Rabbi Sai, with 20 amas by 2 tfachim. What do we do? So I put in the picture right over here. You can see it on Zoom. You can also see it on YouTube. The red dot. The red corner is very important to us because once again, just like the green corner doesn't exist when you put a strip here, so too the red corner doesn't exist when I put the blue strip. So I need to fill in that strip. How big is that strip? 2 tfachim. Times 4, 8 tfachim. Okay? I'm left over with 20 amma. From 20 amma, a tiny little strip, 2 tfachim wide, 20 amma long, 40 feet long. I'm only going to be using 8 tfachim worth of that, which is an amma and a third. Meaning, what do I have right now left over is a long giant blue strip that's 18 ammas and 2/3. Rabbi Sai, this is the machloikis. Rebbe Akiva says, disregard that blue amma thing. The 18 ammas, throw in the garbage. you don't get to use it. It's extra. You're right. We can't be so medayik. We did great. We did this whole picture, everything. We don't have a calculator. We're almost there. We're at how much? 70 plus 2 tfachim plus 2 tfachim. 70 amma and 4 tfachim. 70 amma and 4 tfachim is 70 and 2/3. By 70 and 2/3. Yet we're going to be left over a little bit of a 18 amma strip, 2 tfachim wide of blue. Shalom Yisrael. I have nothing to do with it. According to Rabbi Kiva. According to Tanakama, I do get to use it. Add it. You know how much it is, says Rashi? 2 fingers at most. Because I have to take that 18 amma and stretch it all around the 300 amma. That's about two fingers. Chacham say, if you want to deal with it, deal with it. Rabbi Kiva says, you're not allowed to deal with it. You lose 6. So bottom line is, if you do the math, going back to the first thing we said, 70.66 times 70.66 equals 4994. There's 6 ammas basically. I didn't do the whole math, how the strip fits into 6 ammas, but I'm going to believe Rashi that the 6 ammas worth, 6 square ammas worth of blue strip somewhere that we disregard. We're going to only use 4,994 ammas, not 5,000. Says the Gemara, Minani Mili. How do you know that you take a box and you enlarge a second box? What's going on here? When it talks about the Beis Hamikdash, it says it's 50 amma by 100. But look at the lashon. It doesn't say 50 by 100. It says chamishim b'chamishim. Chamishim b'chamishim. Why 50 in a 50? Oh, Amar Torah. It's a asmachta, Rabbi. It's not a real doiraisa here. We're talking about a karfaf. Amar Torah tol chamishim v'sabev chamishim. Chamishim b'chamishim. Here's the 50 within the 50. This is a 50, an outer 50, and there's an inner 50. Says the Gemara, Pasha Krab and Siv, but we're talking about a Beis Hamikdash that you don't do we're not talking a karfaf in the Torah, we're talking about a Beis Hamikdash that's 50 by 100, and it has to be exactly 50 by 100. You're not taking squares and putting it around another square. So what's the Pasha Pshat and Pasuk? Says the Gemara, this is your chotzer, 50 by 100, and there's a mishkan inside. The mishkan is on the line, exactly on the line, which leaves an open area of 50 to the opening of the chotzer, and 20 amas between the mishkan and every wall within its half of the chotzer. 20 here, 20 here, 20 here. Now, it's actually not counting the thickness, says Rashi, of the actual Mishkan, because the thickness of the Mishkan, this line that says 20 is inaccurate. You see where it says 20, not accurate, because it's 19, because the actual wall of the Mishkan is also one amma, so it's counting the actual wall of the Mishkan. The black also is counted in the La Mishana. The point is that it's 50 to this side. That's the Pashup Pshat in the Pasuk. That's where you position the Mishkan. Even 1 amma more than the square is no good. If it's a rectangle and you have 1 amma more than a perfect rectangle, 50 by 100, that's not like this. Over here he said if it's 1 amma more than a square. Over here he's saying 1 amma more than a rectangle. Which one is it? In our Mishnah we have to understand it. We're talking about the rectangle. It can't be 1 amma more than a rectangle. So then, if so, that's exactly what Rabbi Yossi says. In other words, says Rashi, if somebody comes to the Bezdin and says, how should I make my karfaf? Bezdin, according to Rabbi Yossi, is going to say, or according to Rabbi Yossi, they're going to tell him, build it exactly square. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, it doesn't matter. You can build any way you want. Rabbi Yossi says, if it's a rectangle, it's okay. But how do you build the chatchila? Tosfos says, I don't understand. Why would a Rav get involved in how you build your house? You buy a lot. It's a certain lot. You can't build it the way you want. I mean, okay, fine. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Itmar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha Ki Rabbi Yossi. You don't need a square. You could have, the halacha is, you could have a rectangle also. You could do it 50 by 100. And Rabbi Kiva is Mekel, and he says, you don't have to live there. You don't even need a well. You don't need a cave. You don't need a house. I have to explain to you. That it could be a rectangle. I think a rectangle, but it has to have a guardhouse in there. They don't need anything in there. Rabbi Kiva says, excuse me, you don't have to have a dira in there. However, but it can't be rectangle, it has to be square, which Rabbi Kiva himself holds. Rabbi Kiva holds it has to be square. So we're taking a little bit of him and a little bit of him. We're taking it doesn't have to be mukav dira from Rabbi Kiva, and we're taking that it doesn't have to be square from Rabbi Yossi, and combining it together, even though they don't hold like each other. I guess we'll just stop here, Rabbi Yisai. Unfortunately, we'll stop here. I had too much confidence. I thought this is a shorter daf, and we'll be able to be mad. Okay, fine. We're not that big of a problem. Chavdal and Beis is very short. Beis, even though it's a little bit of an interesting sugya, Be'ezer Hashem, we will be caught up. Have a wonderful. Sorry, Nachman. I'm looking at you, Nachman. Sorry. If I was in Beis Medrash now, I would get it over the head. I know. I'm sorry, Chatasi Ovisi. It was one of those. Listen, these the squares and the rectangle and this around took time, especially for a Panovitcher. Everybody have a wonderful day. Shira Malois. Shira Malois. Mama Kim Kasifa Adonai. Amen. Rabbi, I just realized, had we not had the internet problem, we would have been by the bottom of the Amud, for sure. I miscalculated that one internet problem. That was my miscalculation. It's all in my head. That's the name of the new book. It's all in his head. It's not Maisish Shkmatoya. It's in his head. Vivid imagination. He sees rats. He sees this. Vivid imagination. Yeah. Zygazon, Reb Nard. Who's that? Who's the Cliftoner?
It's Avi Gewurz.
Ah, the Cliftoner Rebbe himself.
I'm just in the car. You're not going to see me. We just took our son to Rochester Yeshiva.
Wow. It should go well. Be'ezer Hashem, it should go well. It should go well.
I've been listening to all the Shiur and it's beautiful.
Shkoyach. I liked your video. Shkoyach for the video, for the scene. It was beautiful.
Our pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
What street in Muncie did your parents live on?
I think it was one off of Calvert, I believe. But I don't remember which one it was. It was off the 306. My mother, Allah Shalom, was a principal in Beis Yaakov of Ramapo, I think.
Okay.
And we didn't do so many of those shortcuts, but when I used to go with my uncle, he was a big shortcut guy. He knew all the shortcuts, and I have reshus from this guy, I have reshus from that guy. This one is little makbid, so let's walk over this way and then go through there. You also had people that were makbid that didn't let you go through the reshus?
The one that I mentioned, they were totally okay with.
Yeah, no, those guys, yeah, but
Where did you die in
I have no idea. Oh, I went. There was a Rebbe there. There was a Rebbe on the block. I'm trying to think. Where daven? Well, during the week we daven v'sikin. My dad always davens v'sikin. So I daven v'sikin in a yeshiva there, like a nursing home, in the bottom of the nursing home.
Yeah.
And then on Shabbos, where do we daven on Shabbos? I don't know. There's like a Rebbe there, mamish, like on Calvert, something.
She was on Yale, Lawrence. She was on Yale.
This is 20 years ago. This is 20 years ago. I don't remember so well.
Okay. All right.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Yishkoyach Lauren. Hey, take care, Mati. Yishkoyach Lauren for the email. Beautiful. No, I decided it makes sense for me, even though there's other emails that I wanted to read, but since it was on the daf, so we'll just go with the daf. It had to do with yesterday. People don't know who Lauren is. Some people don't know. Now they know. It puts a face to the name. Let me shut off YouTube real quickly. Poor YouTubers, they've suffered a lot.